1 Corinthians chapter 14 is one of those chapters in the Bible that is often misunderstood because it is not really read in its context. So in the previous chapter, Paul explained that the miraculous sign gifts were temporary in nature and would pass away when the revelations given to the apostles, and Paul in particular, ended with the completion of the whole canon of Scripture. So in this chapter, he recognizes that that point in time had not yet been reached. So his focus is in giving guidance to help the Corinthians regulate the use of the sign gifts in the meantime. So let's read from 1 Corinthians chapter 14 and the first 5 verses, verses 1 to 5. Follow after charity and desire spiritual gifts, but rather that ye may prophesy. For he that speaketh in an unknown tongue speaketh not unto men, but unto God. For no man understandeth him, howbeit in the Spirit he speaketh mysteries. But he that prophesieth speaketh unto men to edification and exhortation and comfort. He that speaketh in an unknown tongue edifieth himself, but he that prophesieth edifieth the church. I would that ye all spoke with tongues, but rather that ye prophesied. For greater is he that prophesieth than he that speaketh with tongues, except he interpret, that the church may receive edifying. When we find ourselves in a tricky situation and are not sure what we should do, we always appreciate help and guidance. If I'm working on a spreadsheet or word processor on my laptop and I'm not sure what to do next, I appreciate what used to be the little question mark symbol in order to get help. That's what Paul is providing in this chapter. Help for the Corinthians to regulate the use of the miraculous gifts, speaking in tongues in particular, to avoid the chaos that there seems to have been in the assembly. So in the 5 verses that we have just read, he concludes by underlining the importance of edification, that the church may receive edifying in verse 5. Now, the miraculous gifts were indeed spiritual gifts, so it was entirely right that the Corinthians have an interest in them. Desire spiritual gifts, he said in verse 1. But there were 2 qualifications. The first was that they were to do so in the context of love. Follow after charity, also in verse 1. And the idea is to pursue love vigorously or with eagerness. Love for one another and a desire to serve one another was to be the motivating factor in their pursuit of spiritual gifts. Now, the second qualification was to remember that even among the miraculous spiritual gifts, there were those that were of more benefit than others. So Paul wrote, rather that ye may prophesy at the end of verse 1. The sense is, even more that ye may prophesy. The word of prophecy was of greater benefit than speaking in tongues, is what Paul is saying. So the question is, how was prophecy of greater benefit? Paul explains that although speaking in a tongue is intelligible to God, it is unintelligible to other people, even though the speaker might be dealing with the loftiest of spiritual mysteries. On the other hand, he who prophesies, that is, in the language known to the audience, he brings an intelligible message to his hearers, to edification, and exhortation, and comfort, verse 3. He's able to build up, to stir up, and to cheer up. Now, it is true that speaking in tongues will do something for the speaker, but prophesying will do something for the hearers, that is, for others. And that is always the focus of love. He that prophesieth edifieth the church, verse 4. The activity that benefits others is to be preferred, and that is what we ought to seek in all that we do for the Lord. Paul wrote, look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others, in Philippians chapter 2, verse 4. And I hope that that is a lesson that I can learn, that we can all learn from these verses.